Hi, my dear Astro family. So today we are going to be looking at the upcoming Mercury retrograde. And one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video is not because I love making videos on Mercury retrograde, but actually it's forming a T-square with Saturn and Jupiter, and I feel like it's actually important. So this is one of the reasons why we are going to be doing this video. Now, let me give you the dates to start with. The retrograde starts on November 25th, 2024, and ending on December 15th, 2024. The shadow period started on the 7th of November, and it's going to be ending on 2nd of January. And pretty much the kind of like the hit of this is going to be between there are usually two hit periods. Let me not necessarily go into that and explain it so much. We call them as the storm periods. And one of them is between November 21st to November 30th, and then December 12th to December 20th. Now, I would like to remind you that I think the shadow periods are always really important. I tend to see that things start to unfold for us. So think about what was going on, what was going down around the 7th of November in your life, because that might be telling you what to expect. Now, if you would like to have a reading with me, because the end of the year is coming up, then you can actually book the reading now through PayPal as well. So PayPal is back in business for me, and I'm going to be having a couple of very exciting courses and webinars that are about to um, come up. And one of them is the evil side of Jupiter this weekend on Saturday. So I think this video is going to get posted on Saturday. So actually, it is happening on Saturday. And the other one is a synastry course, which is going to be minimum 10 weeks. So if you would like to learn a little bit more, then go and check it out on my website, AstroViktor.com. Oh, and one more thing, please like the video, subscribe, and maybe share the video with others as well. That would be much appreciated. But let's get started with this Mercury retrograde. So now you have got the dates. And as I said, I'm making this video because actually there is another reason why I'm making this video. Not only because of the T-square, but now Mars is going retrograde also on the 5th of December on 6th degree of Leo. And the dispositor of Mars is the Sun, who will conjunct Mercury retrograde on the 14th degree of Sagittarius. So we're definitely talking about a kind of like a rebirth and a reset. So the Mars retrograde shadow period pretty much started around the 6th of October. And then on the 14th of October, Mars and the Sun had a square. And then January 15th, we're going to have a Mars and Sun opposition, which is going to be taking place on 26 degree of Cancer to Capricorn. And then basically Mars will leave the shadow period around the 1st of May. So the reason why I wanted to mention these degrees for you as well, because actually the Mercury and the Mars cycle are pretty interconnected. So when you are analyzing your Mercury retrograde, what it might mean for you, you need to be reading that together with that Mars position. And there is actually another reason as well, but I'm going to be shedding light on that very soon. So, first of all, I would like to mention that I am not a big believer that during Mercury retrograde, you don't need to be signing contract, don't buy electronics and all those type of things. That's so much to do with the fear-mongering type of attitude of astrology nowadays. Mercury retrograde is really special. It repeats an 11-month cycle. What it does is that, for example, it's going to go retrograde, let's say, on 20 degree of Sagittarius, for example. 11 months before, that's when Mercury That's where Mercury went direct. So it's pretty much connecting retrograde cycles. And the retrogression of Mercury always happens typically in the same element. So in this entire year, it happened in fire signs. Sometimes Mercury will be shifting back into a different element. Those are kind of like transitional years because the following year, it's always going to be happening again in the same element. So I hope that makes sense. So, of course, we've got Mars going retrograde, we've got Mercury going retrograde, and even Venus is going to be retrograde as well next year. And it's all triggering your fire signs. So, think about what fire is actually to start with. Fire is, on one hand, surely the representation of identity. So, fire would be talking to you about initiation and passion and desire and how basically you kind of move forward in life. So, it really looks to me that what we need to be reevaluating in the upcoming 1 year at least is all going to be about whether you can be, whether you know who you are. And that's one of the major key success factor I feel like for 2025. The other thing that we might want to be remembering with fire, by the way, the fire signs, remember that we have got four elements. And the fire, under the umbrella of fire, we have got Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. So now, of course, we know that Mars is going to be retrograde in the sign of Leo, while Mercury is going to be retrograde in Sagittarius. And once Venus is going to be retrograde, it's going to be actually happening in the sign of Aries. So if you have got, for example, because we're going to have quite a lot of fire going on, it's all about glory, excitement, challenge, elevation. But also, fire is about motivation, enthusiasm, inspiration, and there is a playful and vibrant nature to it. So you're going to have to be able to kind of look at, generally speaking, whether you have got those within you or not. Fire is about drive and very strong personalities as well, usually. So, how much are you in touch with your own strength? And that's going to be one of the questions. But let's move really on to the Mercury retrograde. So, one very interesting thing is, and I'm going to be giving you additional dates that you might want to be kind of like marking in your calendar because Mercury will be making some very important aspects. First of all, we're gonna have an opposition happening to Jupiter on the 4th of December, which is happening on 16 degree of Sagittarius and Gemini. We're gonna have the conjunction with the Sun, which is we're gonna call it as an inferior conjunction, and that's on the 5th of December on 14 degree of Sagittarius. And then we're gonna have the square to Saturn on the 6th of December, exactly on 13 degree of Sagittarius to Pisces. And also it's going to be making a sextile to Venus on the 13th of December, which is going to be happening on 7 degree Sagittarius to 7 degree Aquarius. So you might want to be marking those down, but I'm going to be breaking this down for you entirely. First of all, we've got this T square going on, basically between Jupiter, Saturn, and Mercury. And it pretty much started on the 9th of November. It's going to be first time peaking on the 15th of November. Then we've got the 5th of December. And then the very last hooray is going to be on the 26th of December. So when Mercury is, for example, making an inferior conjunction to the Sun, it indicates that we are halfway through its retrograde period. And this Mercury is the sign of Sagittarius coming together with Jupiter can indicate that we have got so many ideas. We feel really inspired, but also you can feel extremely overwhelmed by all the possibilities presented to you as well. And then when we are overwhelmed, when we are too excited, it's very easy to overlook details. Remember that Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, so it's not necessarily focusing as much on the details or on the kind of like the information what they have. It wants to be connecting pretty much or to see the information like a bigger picture. And because Mercury is connecting to two social planets, Saturn and Jupiter, it could actually indicate that it feels like that the society is pushing us to study, to learn, to communicate, to speak up, for example, or to write, or all those type of things, whatever Mercury actually represents. So there is definitely a focus here on how much we know, what our wisdom is like, or what's our knowledge like. Now, of course, think about Mercury being the planet of messages, and with Jupiter, who is about spreading something. So it surely talks to us about that we want to be spreading our wings. We want to be spreading a message. Even though it's an opposition, it could be a great period of time if you have been thinking about kind of like do a certain type of promotion, for example, or you want to be actually launching something if you have been working on that for a while. Maybe you want to be sharing your findings or your religious belief systems, for example, or simply we are just really curious about what the meaning to life is. And with Jupiter being in the sign of Gemini, we surely ask a lot of questions. Maybe we are asking questions about our existence and the importance of life. But we do need to also remember that with an opposition to Jupiter, who is the planet of expansion, it can feel like that something is out of balance, out of control. And yes, it could make things spread like fire. Jupiter is also the ruler of Sagittarius as well. And Jupiter being in the sign of Gemini feels a little bit kind of like odd. So we can overdo things. We can be kind of like over collecting information, over talking, and so forth. And then sometimes where the difficulty is coming from that we cannot shut our mouth. We find it very difficult to somehow stop. That's where Saturn comes into the picture. And Saturn says, we need to do that slowly. We need moderation here. We need to be actually asking the right questions. We need to think smart. It might be also telling us that we need to release old belief systems, some type of outworn thoughts. And maybe we need to be actually gain a greater sense of kind of like things in our life that matters. It is like you are trying to spread your wings and your message, but you run into some type of resistance from others, for example. So you have got something to say and no one listens to you. No one wants to take your advice. They might even think that you are somehow judgmental. And simply, it could indicate that people are not on the same page with us. Remember that Saturn wants to structure our thoughts. And with Jupiter and Mercury, we've got so many ideas that it could be a little bit chaotic. Saturn also wants us to be a little bit more real with our thoughts. Now, Jupiter is trying to get us be very positive, and surely the same with Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius as well. But Saturn says you can dream, but do not overstretch yourself. Remember, Saturn is in the sign of Pisces. It doesn't necessarily want to limit our dreams. It actually wants us to work towards the dreams and not to dream too much. And this aspect could talk to us about not to think too much as well, not to read into things. By the way, on the day when we have got the inferior conjunction, actually, we also have got a sextile to the moon as well. So this could talk to you about that we can be joining with others, we can put our heads together, for example. But also, this Mercury retrograde tells us that we need to have open-minded discussions about what is real and what's not, how optimistic we are. But there is an optimism going on, surely with Jupiter and Mercury. But the fears are also switched on there as well. And maybe it's freezing us. Or with Jupiter, Mercury, we might want our freedom. But if it feels like that you have to pay a price for it, Saturn in Pisces. So you can have that kind of like existential question whether to shut down the idea of freedom or I am meant to be paying the price for it. And of course, there is with the T square formation, there is actually a focus going on. And the focal point of this T square is actually Saturn in the sign of Pisces. How hard am I willing to work on achieving my dreams? So it really looks to me that we have to be revisiting. For example, if you had any type of dreams approximately about 11 months before, so we talk sometimes at the end of December, beginning of January. Mercury in the sign of Sagittarius is looking forward to something. Often we become reckless, and this is why Saturn can help you, because Saturn is actually telling you to be cautious about something. You cannot just go forward with an idea without any type of intensive research. That's what Saturn says. Or it tells you that you have to be facing your own fears. You have to be planning things out for a better future. Yes, Saturn sometimes going to bring you doubts, but Jupiter promises that everything will be okay. It's kind of like you're signing a contract without reading through the contract because someone told you that, oh, it's all good. Don't worry about it. Okay. So you need to be having a closer look at what is being promised to you or what you promise to others or the messages that you receive. Are you listening to them? Also, this could indicate dark thoughts versus optimistic thoughts, which one to go with. And there is a need here to balance those out. Maybe your belief system is going to get tested. Maybe you're going to be questioning whether you are on the right path. And Saturn tells you, that's the focal point here, that if something gets promised to you, maybe you want to formalize that, have a formal conversation about it, basically a pen to paper situation. Make it formal. Don't take words for granted. By the way, Mercury retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius could be a great time to reflect on, how to review, for example, your studies or to um, look at your connections with your professor or gurus or teachers and so forth. I mean, Sagittarius also rules over foreign travel. So maybe it is telling you not to book so many holidays, just book one, for example. Um, and definitely to look at what the meaning of life means to you. Uh, Definitely the fire signs are all about celebration as well at the same time. So maybe this is also telling you that it's time to celebrate little things in life, kind of like milestones. Now, with Jupiter being in the picture, often it exaggerates our feelings or opinions, and therefore it's easy to kind of make a judgment over something, or we can be oversharing that we shouldn't. It's kind of like letting the cat out of the bag. So this Saturn is also telling you to choose your words wisely. Or maybe we are doubting what others are saying, or we even question our sanity because I am on a different opinion. Am I crazy to be on a different opinion? So we've got a lot of mutability going on now in this chart. And for example, the mutable signs, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, will feel these the most, especially in the professional arena. Maybe what happens here is that sometimes we might go really far, like literally or metaphorically. So we push forward, and what could happen is that we make mistakes. So the Mercury retrograde is telling you that it's time to retrace your steps. We might even want to run away from responsibilities, for example. And then Saturn is going to put you back onto the path that you need to be on. Saturn says that you cannot just disregard your responsibilities. So Saturn says to control something, control your desire to travel and so forth, or to run away. Maybe you need to finish off something that started 11 months ago. Maybe you were just thinking about it, but there was no action taken. So now it's time to take action. Now, the Mercury retrograde actually ends with a Mars trine. And it is happening when pretty much Mars is kind of like stationary. So it also indicates that things are going to be, just working out slowly, but it's going to be happening. So just move forward. So with this Mercury retrograde, you can go ahead and have plans and you can carry them out. But Saturn tells you to be just cautious. It's okay to have new experiences. It's okay to expand, but you don't need to be running forward. Now, one other thing that I would like to mention is that obviously the Saturn square to Mercury is going to be happening on 13 degree of Sagittarius to Pisces. And we had the Jupiter and Mars conjunction happening on 13 degree Gemini. So this Mercury retrograde actually is somehow switching on the Mars and Jupiter conjunction degree also, which happened on top of my head back in probably July, so about 4 months ago. So maybe what you need to be crystallizing is something that you were extremely excited about in July. So, guys, this is my take on the upcoming Mercury retrograde. I hope it helps, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.